The Weeknd looks terrible.
That's his brand.
That's not his brand though. He looks. That's not his brand.
I think it is.
You people out there, is The Weeknd's brand bad hair? Welcome back, everybody. This is Soundbites, the part of album mode when we're talking about the culture, the music, the digital, and all the things in between. We're here. It's Demar Grant, aka King Grant, with Adriel Smiley, aka Adriel Smiley Official, aka the Adriel Smiley, aka The Godfather, and our producer, Patient Zero, aka Chris.
Dax Edwards.
And we're back. Soundbites, baby, where we're talking about all the good stuff. Dude, this is like sometimes my favorite part of the pod.
Oh, for sure.
Because we're talking about just like all the shit that is happening
Right now.
And like, this is what you and I just like, I feel like would talk about just regardless. And now we're just like doing it for the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
So the first thing I want to talk about is Taylor Swift.
Yes.
Taylor Swift and Matty Healy. We have not been talking about that on this podcast. I feel like almost purposefully because it's just been a mess. And it's kind of like trying to figure out which part of the mess you want to grab onto and then pull it out and then examine it. But the mess is now over. They've broken up reportedly. And I'm going to say this right now. This is probably the best career move Taylor Swift has made in years, okay? In years, because the Matty Healy thing was a disaster.
She got bullied into a breakup. That, like, how crazy. And here's what I thought about. Maybe this is not an exact parallel, but we did cover the Selena versus Haley.
Right. Oh, yes, we did. Yeah, we did.
We always cover the hard topics here on Soundbites. And I don't think either of them got bullied into anything. The internet was very vocal with them, but we didn't see any, reverberations from the internet bullying.
Yeah.
This was definitely different because I think that if the internet wasn't so mad, we don't see the Ice Spice song, which, like you showed me, break some records for her as the top. I think it's top selling singles artist of the year so far, which is absolutely ludicrous.
Remember who bought in? Remember who bought into the Ice Spice experience?
I don't know if you can say you. Remember, we got to run the tape. I'm like, bought in seems too strong for me.
No, I bought in. I was like, it's possible. I think
you
it's
did
doable.
It's possible, but you were so dubious. You were like, she can do it.
Yes,
I don't know if she will.
Right,
but she can.
Right.
Is that bought in?
That is, I would say, a tentative buying in.
That's bought in adjacent. I was less bought in than you.
Exactly.
No, that's correct. I definitely
you were skeptical.
Her. Listen, I don't make this a practice, but that was the one time that I did not support black women, for sure. That was that time. But I would say neither of us were necessarily bought in. I would say she surprised all of us with what she's done so far.
Okay.
But I think, again, without the bullying, we don't get Ice Spice.
Yeah.
And we probably don't get this breakup because I didn't really know she was even dating Matt Healy till a little bit before the Ice Spice stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't know all the stuff about Matt Healy until this. And he's been a figure for a long time. And there's a lot of stuff that kind of surfaced with this Taylor Swift stuff. So I think that the internet is up one. Internet is up one.
Yeah, there's that phrase, the internet is undefeated. And I feel like they definitely won this battle because Matty Healy, which part do we recant? I mean, the part where he made, let's say, offensive or racist remarks surrounding Ice Spice and like the way he talked about her on that podcast. Cumtown, which is the
like what?
I think it's Adam like Friedland, I think or Friedman, right? Is the actual name of the podcast, but it's nicknamed Cumtown, where they were making the offensive / racist remarks about Ice Spice. Even though Ice Spice, if you've seen previous videos of Ice Spice, she said like she likes 1975, which is just like mind blowing that you could say that about you can say something like Matty Healy could say something about that can say something about a peer and somebody who's also a fan of you to say what he said was insane, and then to also double down on it afterwards in the interview. Well, he backtracked slightly, saying that if she found anything that he said was offensive, blah blah blah, the boilerplate.
Yeah.
But then after he came back and doubled down, saying it's like, if anybody's really mad at what I'm saying is like, you're online and you like you're not like really involved in real life. Like you're just chronically online. So that all happened, and I don't know what possessed Taylor Swift to include Ice Spice on one of her songs, other than the intense backlash that she was receiving for seeing this dude. It had to influence her to the point where it's like, I'm going to try to include her in my music so it brings off some of the heat on me, because it was crazy. Like in not a good way.
I think this also speaks to both of their fan bases, because I've mentioned before there are some fan bases and some like internet personalities who are almost uncancelable because their fan bases are not really gonna cancel them for something like this.
Yeah.
And I think Taylor Swift's fan base is definitely the cancel people fan base.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think that's part of why she responded, why the Ice Spice thing happened. Because if it had been someone else, insert someone who's not as, as delicate as Taylor Swift's fans are.
Yeah.
They probably don't even respond, don't even comment. You only know if you know,
right.
And because I think that she actually brought more attention to it by linking up with Ice Spice, because he's making comments about Ice Spice. If she had linked to a Pink Pantheress instead of Ice Spice, maybe it's not as much of a direct link right there. And so I think that is kind of, she her PR team, I got to say they dropped the ball on this one.
Massive.
They've made a bunch of great moves in the past.
Yeah.
A decade full of great moves. This is not one of them. And she has an album coming out too, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah.
Another re-release. But I think that she kind of led people to this more instead of making it go away, which I thought she was trying to make it go away. As well, the podcast where he made these remarks was eventually pulled from Apple and Spotify.
And YouTube.
I think this is kind of shows kind of the level that Taylor is at, because there have been a bunch of other things said on the internet in podcasts that are even more offensive, that are not getting pulled. And if Matt Healy wasn't dating Taylor Swift, probably doesn't get pulled either.
Yeah.
And so it's like, Taylor, she's still Taylor at the end of the day. This move gave that she was a smaller artist, and she could just clean it up and just bring Ice Spice over here. They'll forget about what's going on.
Yeah,
it'll be all cleaned up. Not gonna work here. Not gonna work here. So you said it as well. I think a huge misstep by her team. Ice Spice, get the fucking bag. Get the fucking.
Are you
bag.
happy? Are you happy that wait? What part of this you think is good for Ice Spice? Because you're saying get the bag. What part of it is good for her?
I think it's all good for her. I don't like here's the thing. Taylor herself is not offensive as an artist. There have been plenty of other black artists who have worked with Taylor Swift.
Kendrick Lamar
comes to mind for sure. So it's like Taylor Swift on her own is not something you have to kind of morally come to grips with to work with them.
Right.
It might be different if someone's working with Kanye West. They might say, okay, he's a great artist, but he said some things that I don't agree with. Taylor Swift is not that. So just on that alone, it's not a problem for her to work with Taylor Swift.
Right.
I think because of the Matt Healy stuff, it kind of complicates it, especially because there's something they said about that they were DMing and Ice Spice didn't answer him, and that's why he's upset, which is like wild. Like, why do you even care? But I think just in a vacuum, Ice Spice, Taylor Swift, that's a win for Ice Spice. You do that 10 times out of 10. And so it's like, this will all blow over eventually, where we will forget about the Matt Healy portion of this. But the Ice Spice Taylor Swift song, those checks will keep coming in for Ice Spice. So this is definitely a win for her.
Yeah, I think in the moment when she was on stage with Taylor Swift at one of her concerts, like dancing, that and Matty Healy was still part of like the scenario, right? At that point, I felt like that's a bad move, because I felt as though like the audience overlap doesn't really exist.
For Ice Spice and Taylor, you mean?
Yeah. But I would say now that the Matty Healy experience is over, this is it's a big come up, or not a big come up, but it's a nice move for Ice Spice, because now you have the Taylor Swift thing, and you kind of killed the Matty Healy thing. You kind of did that. Like,
I guess they did kill it.
yeah, the Matty Healy thing is kind of over because of you. And you didn't explicitly. She never really explicitly responded to him in any sort of way.
No response.
So there's, she can kind of wash her hands of it.
Mm-hmm.
She's got the Taylor Swift thing in her pocket, and the Ice Spice experience is still going, like since last summer, right? Since Munch came out. We're still talking about Ice Spice. She's still dropping music. She is still part of the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
So I think it's ultimately a win for her. For Matty Healy, he's down bad. I don't even really I don't really know what he's.
I don't think he's down bad. I just don't think his fans care. Because people I know who I'm a fan of the band, but I didn't know much about him in particular.
Mm-hmm.
And people I know who are fans of him and kind of knew this about him before, they knew this about him before. And I'm like, so you knew he was like this and you didn't tell me when they're your favorite band. You get what I'm saying? So I think this is why I always attribute it to Taylor Swift is like, I don't think his fans are canceling him for these things, They said that he was racist. They did, kind of say they're disappointed in him.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think his fans are canceling him. I think if 975 goes on tour in 2 months, they're still going to do fine.
Some people are still going to be there.
Yeah, so I think for sure maybe he lost a girlfriend.
Yeah.
He lost a romantic partner.
Yeah.
That's something.
I'm just saying, if you had a shot at Taylor Swift and you somehow fumble it, that's a big ass fumble.
Can I tell you what's funny?
That's a big fumble, bro.
We had Danielle Hartman.
Mm-hmm.
We were watching one of the finals games, the conference finals games.
Yeah.
And we had a whole talk about Taylor Swift.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about her and Matt. This is before Ice Spice, but her and the Matt Healy thing.
Yeah.
And I was saying, I don't know, Taylor Swift is like, I'm not dying to date Taylor Swift personally,
right.
Not particularly my type.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, no, are you crazy? Taylor's so pretty. She's all this, all that. And I think that this kind of swayed me to their side because it seemed like a big deal for him to be dating Taylor.
Yes, but my thing is like not even what anybody looks like. Mm-hmm. It's literally just like if you're a woman and you have a shot to date Drake and you fumble that's a massive fumble.
True.
Right?
It's like the guy who fumbled Beyonce before Jay-Z. Or
like if Rich Paul fumbles Adele, I'm like, that's a big fumble.
That's a fumble. That's
right?
A fumble.
So I'm just saying, like, for him, I don't think he's never going to be as popular as Taylor Swift is in his entire life. He would have to become a different person.
True.
Right? And for him to be part of 1975 and like, I don't want to say it's niche, but
they're almost niche, yeah.
But they're not, super mainstream, right? So
not Ice Spice.
They're not like Ice Spice. They're not as mainstream as Ice Spice. So I think that is the fumble for me because like that's a money fumble, that's a notoriety fumble, that's a cultural fumble.
Interesting,
right? Because now you're in the mainstream cultural zeitgeist. You're like that douchebag motherfucker that dated Taylor Swift.
See,
so I think that's where what I'm talking about, the fumble is coming from.
Here, before we move on to the next topic, here's the thing that I think. Now, today, went to the grocery store, and someone at the grocery store who me and her talk back and forth. We don't know each other's names, but we're always just chatting. And I ask her, what's the tea? What's new with you? She brings up this Taylor situation.
Right.
And she's like, yeah, she broke up with that guy, Matt. And I tell her, yeah, he's kind of racist. He said some sexist things.
Yeah.
Just seems like a overall barbarian.
Yeah.
And she had no clue about this and still was giving the energy of, thank God Taylor broke up with him. So that leads me to believe there is a group of people who are Taylor Swift fans who don't necessarily know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? They're like, okay, there's a song with Ice Spice. She broke up with her man, but they don't actually know what's going on. And so because there is that confusion with such a large group of people, again, I think that this will age so differently. Like as this situation ages, Matt will be okay and sell his tickets.
Yep.
Taylor will find another person to, date, write songs about. Ice Spice will continue to do whatever she's doing.
Yeah.
And I think that once this kind of, 5 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever it is, we'll remember that they dated and that they tried to clean it up this way. But I think ultimately, I hope that Taylor's team learned their lesson. That's what I'm taking from this, because this was a bad cleanup, I think.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's almost too much for the casual fan to understand.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of why we're doing sound bites. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
But I think that she brought more attention to it that she didn't need to.
That's true. Because I would say the outrage was very much internet outrage.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and
but it was very loud internet outrage. It was extremely loud.
It's a delicate fan, because I think for the most part, internet outrage lasts 72 hours tops.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like some people that just gets to them and they have to reply or do something. Mm-hmm. But there's some people who it's like, don't reply. The internet will get over it.
Yeah.
You'll still be you. I think Taylor is not her orbit, not from that ilk. Mm-hmm. If this had been Beyonce and the Beehive, Beyonce ain't saying shit.
Yeah.
Beyonce ain't doing none of this.
No.
You think if this was Rihanna and the Navy, Rihanna ain't doing none of this. You think if they're saying stuff about A$AP Rocky, you think Rihanna's gonna reply and go work with Phoebe Bridgers? No, this is not happening. This is a Taylor Swift and her fan base type of thing.
Right.
So I think for that reason, in the moment, it was just so large. But actually, in reality, 6 weeks from now, it will be like, who's mad again?
Yeah, exactly.
So
okay. So
Taylor fucked up.
Yeah, she did. In a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. I would call this a misstep for her. Speaking of missteps.
Yeah.
The Idol.
Yes. Wow. Speaking of missteps is strong. I just added it to my list on HBO. Speaking of missteps is strong.
I don't want to say the show is not a misstep. I was more talking about the main character, Lily Rose Depp in The Idol. She's playing a character named Jocelyn, who you need to watch it. Have you not watched it?
I've not watched it yet.
None. Like, how much of it do you know about? Just real quick. Zero.
Nothing.
Wow.
Nothing.
So The Idol, produced by The Weeknd, produced and co-created by The Weeknd and Sam Levinson, who's the guy who made Euphoria, which is one of my favorite shows. Second season could have been a little bit better, but okay. It's basically about this character. Her name is Jocelyn, who is like a sex symbol, superstar, like celebrity. She's a singer and stuff like that. And she meets this guy who is kind of like very devilish, manipulative. This is The Weeknd's character. And from what I could tell from one episode, there's going to be a little of like her trying to figure out how to come back in her career, her managerial team dealing with them, and figuring out what the hell The Weeknd's character is doing, because this guy is, I'm scared. I see him on the screen and I'm scared.
He's bad news.
Yeah. So The Idol, I think I would say I've been thinking about it a little bit, because I'm like, I've been trying to figure out what it is, and I'm like, it's like if The Weeknd was a woman, and he's like, this is what I would be like if I was a famous singer.
Okay.
That's what it seems like to
That's
me.
kind of how he described it, so that makes some sense.
Yeah.
It's kind of how he described it.
Yeah, because if you think of like House of Balloons, and it's like drug-riddled, sex, it's like very like things that are happening that are ambiguous, people like a toxic relationship, that all exists in the show. But she's the main character, like in the middle of it instead of him, right?
So it's a lot of trilogy era, seems like.
Yeah. It's a lot of House of Balloons. If you listen to House of Balloons and then you just like watch the show, it's like the same thing.
Something he said talking about the show, and it was in that same interview where he said he's going to stop using The Weeknd. He said that this show is an example of what would have happened if he didn't have the right people around him and didn't make the right choices. So from what you're saying, it seems like after one episode, it's already leading down that path.
Yeah.
But I am excited to see what that looks like, just because The Weeknd is such an anomaly that we don't often think about him like that, because for an artist who I can say, right, he definitely was doing these drugs.
Yeah.
He definitely was living that life. For him not to get into any kind of big trouble in that is very rare.
True.
You know, especially in this era. Like most people who are that deep into that, something happens along the way. I think about Mac Miller when he was alive, talking about how he missed shows because he was drinking so much lean that he just fell asleep and would miss a whole concert just because he was asleep off lean.
Yeah.
And for The Weeknd to not have any of those type of stories, I think is very, very impressive. So to see him tell this story of what would happen if it didn't go as good as it did,
yep,
interested to see that.
Yeah. Okay. So episode 1 basically is when I said what the thing I said at the beginning was like speaking of like missteps. So it's like at the beginning, it's like she's like doing a photo shoot for Vanity Fair, and within 5 minutes they find out that there is an explicit photo of the main character Jocelyn, where there is how do I put this delicately?
Let's hear it.
There I don't know. There isn't really a way to put it delicately. Like there was a picture, a cum shot of her that went out online.
Wow.
Right?
That is aggressive.
And her managerial team is basically trying to. It's a facial, right? Her managerial team is trying to figure out how to deal with it. Do we paint her as a victim? Is it revenge porn? Like, is she like? How do we spin her into becoming a feminist icon? Stuff like that. So there's that, and then she meets. Then she ends up, like she finds out. Like her managerial team eventually tells her after the photo shoot. And then she gets pissed off, and then she decides she's gonna go clubbing with her dancers, right? Where she meets The Weeknd, which is his character. I don't even remember his character's name, which is a problem. Because I'm just like The Weeknd.
Right, that's Abel.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, that's The Weeknd with terrible hair. The hairstyle is absolutely god awful. It's like a perm, but in a ponytail. It's awful, bro. It's genuinely
I see
bad.
it here. It's bad, but you got to understand, The Weeknd is the king of horrible hairstyles. I can't tell you one Weeknd hairstyle.
That's not true.
That is 100% true.
Remember the early times when he had
pineapple?
That looked great. You didn't like that? You didn't like the freeform dreads?
The pineapple was smelly.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
The Weeknd,
the freeforms looked awesome. They looked great until they started to do the curl thing.
That happened pretty quickly.
Right. Nah, that was like Beauty Before the Madness. That was like 2013.
Oh, I guess that's true. They didn't make it to Beauty Before the Madness.
Yeah.
But he is the king of bad hairstyles. He finds a bad hairstyle and says, I'm still going to rock it. I have the confidence. I'll make it work. So it only makes sense his character is going down that same path.
So it's this rat tail, which they do mention in the show how bad the hairstyle is. So I think it's part of the plot. And yeah, so he meets her in the club, and then they have some conversations inside the club, and then they have some let's say sexual activities post club
encounters.
Yeah, sexual encounter post club, and then she invites him back to her place like for the next day. They link up. Then she like says like listen to my latest song, and she says how much it sucks. And then they have a conversation about how bad it sucks.
Wow.
And he was like, it's supposed to be sexy, but you're singing it like it's supposed to be hot, but you're singing it like it's not hot at all. And then he basically strangles her or asphyxiates her with her own robe, and then cuts like a hole in it. And she is like panting outside of it. It's extremely horny. Like the level of horniness, the level of horniness is so fucking high that I am kind of like, what am I watching right now?
Sam Levinson has this thing with his shows.
Yeah.
That he always kind of brings in the horniness when you're not expecting it. Like you don't need, like it doesn't need to be in here. Yes, this could be technically realistic.
Yeah. But
he does love to bring in the horniness.
Yeah.
When no one's asking for it.
You need to watch it.
No,
you need to watch it because I want to talk to you about it because this show is like off the rail. It's like Euphoria, but The Weeknd is a part of it.
Okay. Maybe this will be like a monthly thing. We check back in.
Yeah.
But I will be up to date. Episode comes out on Sunday.
Yeah.
Succession just ended.
Yes, this is the only thing to watch.
This will be the new Succession. So I will be up to date. It's 2 episodes next week. Like one, I'll watch 1 and 2.
Okay.
And then at the end of June we'll check back in and see where we're at. So
yeah.
I'll be up to date.
It looks great though. It looks phenomenal. Lily Rose Depp looks great in it as well. The Weeknd looks terrible.
That's his brand.
That's not his brand though. He looks. That's not his brand.
I think it is.
You people out there, is The Weeknd's brand bad hair? Dude, the freeforms looked great. The pineapple was iffy. I think that when he cut it looked bad. But now the afro looks really good. Okay? So I think that it's up and down. Everybody has some bad haircuts. Drake has had bad haircuts before, right?
That's not Drake's brand, though.
It's not the Weeknd's brand. It's not the Weeknd's brand. Oh my God.
This could be a poll. Is the Weeknd's brand bad haircuts?
Yeah, and I'm gonna strongly be a no. But so the show is I would say the first episode I'm gonna give it like a 6 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10.
Not bad.
I think the Weeknd's performance as like I want to say the antagonist. I don't know about villain, but antagonist is it's because I can't tell if he can't act or if he's doing it on purpose for it to be unsettling. Because anytime he's on screen, you're like, this is weird. You know, like it's a little squirmy when you're there. And I can't tell if he's doing it on purpose or
if he can't act.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? I'll watch it and I'll come back with an answer for you. Can he actually not act and it's cringy? Or is he such a good actor?
I think currently, I think that I think it's working.
So you think he can act?
I think so.
You know what? Of course you would think
but
so.
I'm a Weeknd fan through and through. I should have put that as a disclaimer, guys.
You should have.
The Weeknd.
Well, I think the way you're defending his hairstyles, everyone can tell that you're a Weeknd fan through and through. I think that made it very clear.
I'm Weeknd pilled, okay? Yes. I've been listening to the Weeknd since the beginning. Before anybody even knew what he looked like. That's when I've been listening to the Weeknd, okay? Been to his shows. I have the Weeknd sweater, t-shirt, multiple t-shirts.
You're paying his bills.
Right? I'm a card-carrying member of the XO family, okay?
For sure.
So I think it's kind of working, but it's unsettling. I think it's supposed to be unsettling. I'm dubious, though.
Okay.
I'm dubious because, like, he is a very prominent part of the show. He's not like a side character. He's a main character.
Yeah, I think what I'm interested to see is how it grows, his role from what you said, because I think how his role grows in the show will kind of make or break the show in a sense.
Yeah, for real.
So,
because Lily Rose, she's doing real well. I believe it.
Okay.
I'm believing the sex symbol celebrity thing. The Weeknd it's really make or break because he's, again, the antagonist. So if the antagonist is not working, the show's just gonna break. It's not gonna work.
Before we move on to our last topic, I will say this. The guy with confidence and a horrible hairstyle is usually trouble. So I would say in that sense, they probably have it correct.
Right.
We have, I think you sent me this tweet, or was I sent it to you? I can't remember now, but no hip-hop album has charted #1 in 2023 so far. We're more than halfway through the year.
Yeah.
Lil Durk is projected to sell 125K. I didn't even know Lil Durk had an album out. I just saw that one J. Cole song and thought it was a single. Apparently, he has his album out.
Yeah.
But to sell 125K and not go #1 is pretty crazy. Taylor Swift is going to outsell him with 155.
Yeah.
And it's the first time since 1998 there hasn't been a #1 hip hop album by June. What do you think that's about? What do you think that is? Because I'm gonna go back a little bit to our Ice Spice convo when she has 3 songs in the top 5 on Billboard, but we don't have a #1 album. What do you think that is?
I think that first of all, the heavy hitters have not dropped anything. So last year we had a Drake album. We had 2 Drake albums.
Yeah.
Right? We had Kendrick last year. Even people like, I think even Joey Badass dropped last year or the year before, something like that. But I would say upcoming we have Uzi, right?
Yeah.
A$AP Rocky is supposed to drop. And somebody, Travis Scott.
I'd say Travis is coming.
Yeah.
Russ is coming.
Russ actually charts well, even though.
Yeah. Russ has a good chance of going number. And Russ has gotten much better musically since his last album.
Right.
So hopefully that helps. But you're right. I think that J. Cole's been dropping an album this year.
Right.
So maybe that will change all of this. It's just the heavy hitters. But I do think it is interesting because I feel like every year there is that one artist who they are like a good selling artist, but they go #1 kind of surprisingly.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, I know Nav's album Bad Habits went #1. That was surprising to me. So I feel like there always is that one artist who, for whatever reason, they have a big single or something and sell a lot that week. We haven't really had that. Tyler dropped his Deluxe.
Yeah.
I thought that would do pretty well. Didn't go #1. Ice Spice.
Yeah.
Didn't go #1. So I want to see who it will be first, or if it will just be whenever Utopia drops, that will be.
It's just auto. But the thing with that is like that's auto going one, unless like I don't
even know what unless. Yeah, I don't know unless. And that's kind of my thing is I'm like, will Utopia be the first?
Okay.
Or will someone else do it beforehand that we are not expecting? Because Lil Durk would be the one, because Lil Durk had one of the best-selling albums last year.
Yep.
And it's not been that long since his last project. So I thought Lil Durk would be someone that went number one. He always sells extremely well. Mm-hmm. So my question is, who is it going to be if not Travis Scott? It probably is going to be Travis Scott. Like, what are we really saying?
Yeah.
Probably Travis Scott. But I think that's interesting that it seems to be only the heavy hitters.
Yeah.
That go number one.
Yeah, I think it's just, I don't know. We're in a little bit of a lull right now, I feel, in hip hop. And I felt that for a few years now. Overall, just like young talent wise, I think there's like I've been thinking about making a YouTube video about this for a while now, where I'm just like, we kind of lost a generation of like the top dudes.
Yeah.
Like Juice WRLD, X, and Pop Smoke.
Yeah.
We lost those three dudes, and those guys were like in a span of like 2 years or a year or something like that. And they were all like 21, 22, 23. And they all were already number one charting artists.
At such a young age.
Yeah, and Pop Smoke. Pop Smoke had a new genre. He was coming in with drill music, right? And Juice WRLD was like a freestyle king, and he was doing the guitar-based music. And then X was kind of stretching away from hip-hop, but also like bouncing back and forth. So I feel like this is kind of a symptom of that, where that young talent is missing right now. Because can you imagine, like,
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, because if we had Juice WRLD, X, and Smoke, those are three dudes.
They're all going number one.
Yeah,
they're all going
number one. So that's my deal.
I think that's a great point to bring up, because they are the group I was thinking of like, I say Juice is a heavy hitter out of all of three of those.
Yeah.
But
still with X. X
too. But X is like an upcoming heavy hitter. Like the general rap fan doesn't really know X's music as much or know him as much. They know who he is and that he exists.
Yeah.
But they didn't know him as much. And I think of someone like Yeat. Like Yeat would be in that X Juice spot. And you know how popular Yeat is. You know, Yeat should be going number one. You know what I mean? So I think it's interesting that those guys were doing what I think Yeat should be doing, and all those guys have passed away.
Yeah, they're all dead.
And that's like I now that I see that Yeat is not doing that, maybe that's just gone. Like it died with them, because you're right. Those guys would have been the up and comers, like Pop Smoke. Basically, if he hadn't passed, his album still did go number one.
Yeah.
But if he hadn't passed, he would be running things.
Yeah.
Right now.
If he hadn't, okay. Here's what I believe seriously about Pop Smoke. If Pop Smoke had not died, we would be talking about drill as the predominant form of hip hop right now. I think we would be like drill would be at the top.
I wasn't gonna say that, but that's a fair statement. I was gonna say we were talking about him at the top, because I think he was starting to go away from drill the more popular he got.
Right.
Like right before he passed, he was getting away from drill and starting to just do more general hip hop and like pop hip hop. So I don't think that drill would be as prevalent, because he himself wasn't going to be as tied to drill. But I think he would be one of the top artists for sure. Like he would be in the conversation we're talking about of like Joey Badass, Yeat, that next level underneath the top three. He would be leading that group. Moneybagg Yo, Future, he would be right there.
Yeah, I think the reason why I say the drill thing is because he broke through. Right, it was drill. He broke through with drill. Sure. Right, Welcome to the Party was a just out and out drill track.
Yeah,
right. And part of the reason why everybody was so into it is like it doesn't sound like anything else.
Yeah,
right. And it got to the point where people like Kanye West had drill songs. Drake was doing drill. We're talking about Ice Spice. Ice Spice is a drill artist.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
So drill, despite his death, still exists within. It's not as prominent as it was when he was still alive. Like it was like drill was like, whoa, we were talking about like like a serious movement. Right now, it's more of like a subcategory. Right. But he was distancing himself from drill, but their drill songs were still on the albums. He was He was almost tilting more like 50 Cent, where he's doing like these soft songs that like shouldn't work considering his voice, but did
more pop hip hop.
Yeah. So I think that the drill thing, he was the head of the snake, right?
Yeah.
And then he died, and then people are like, okay, who is it? Like maybe Fabio Foreign. And then that was like a little bit, and like he's gone.
It's dead, yeah. It's
right?
dead.
So that's to me, I'm like, if he was still alive, I'm like, we'd be talking about drill instead of trap right now. Or we've been talking about a duel between drill and trap right now.
No, I think things would be very different because I think that he would have taken that space that the Lil Durk and Moneybagg Yo's of the world hold. I think he would have been like the guy ahead of those guys. And
he's so charismatic too. Like, yo, he's so good in interviews.
And he would have been, because I think that he would have been the guy, kind of like what Vince Staples was years ago, and still to some degree now, where people know of him, his face, his voice, his interviews more than his music.
Yeah,
you know,
possibly,
like he had a lot of big songs, but I think like I have cousins who are in their late 30s and early 40s who still talk about Pop Smoke's passing as if it was a family member.
Yeah,
so,
man.
You know, I think he had that grip on the people. I'm looking at the Billboard 200 charts, and, you know, we've mentioned no hip hop the whole year.
Yeah.
And I think what you said about the heavy hitters really rings true, because a lot of this chart is you know, the top 20 is 20 Taylor Swift, 18.
Yeah, then we're talking about Morgan Wallen.
13 Taylor Swift, 11 Taylor Swift, 6 Taylor Swift.
Yep.
1 Taylor Swift.
She's on a kill streak right now.
And 2 Morgan Wallen. And I think that a lot of these are albums from big artists that are just kind of, you know, recharting the next year. SZA is on here with SOS. Bad Bunny his album is on here. Zach Bryan's album is on here. You know, Karol G, The Weeknd, Highlights is on here. Her Loss. And the one new entry out of all, there's only 2 new entries that are both hip hop, but this shows where we're at. There's Lil Durk at number 3. Big shout to Lil Durk at number 3, and Kodak Black at number 19. And other than that, there are no new entries in the top 20.
Right.
So it's not just only a hip hop thing. I think this is just something where you're right, because streaming plays such a big part in how they're, you know, gathering the numbers of what actually goes number 1. These big artists who have these big songs who are streamed constantly are going to always do better. Her Loss came out so long ago.
I know. And
this is what, week 18 of Her Loss does more than Kodak Black in his first week.
Yeah, so exactly. That's a perfect encapsulation. So we're waiting on heavy hitters, basically, for the hip hop to... Utopia.
We're waiting.
What is it? The Pink album is
Nicki?
No, there's the Nicki thing, but then Uzi it's called the Pink album.
Yeah, Uzi too.
Right? So yeah, there's Nicki coming out too. So there's that's what I'm saying. Heavy hitters.
We're gonna have a run of number 1s.
Yeah, we're waiting for the heavy hitters. Uzi, Travis, Nicki's shit is gonna be huge. Like it just is. Like I think that as men in hip hop, just like, I mean, I think they recognize Nicki Minaj, but anytime Nicki Minaj is dropping something, it's gonna be huge.
Men definitely recognize Nicki Minaj.
Yeah, it's gonna be big.
I think the other women in hip hop have more of an issue.
Yeah, there's more beef. What's with all the beef in women in hip hop right now?
Yeah, it's a crazy place. Listen, I think that we're gonna talk about it next week on Soundbites in terms of the song of the summer. Which is,
I would give you a little taste test on that. A lot of people are listening to Sprinter right now. A lot of people are listening to Sprinter a lot.
I don't think it's Sprinter. A lot of people are listening, but I don't think it's.
A lot of people listen to Sprinter.
I don't think it's Sprinter. But I will say this: I think that there are a lot of artists coming this summer in hip hop, especially, who are Song of the Summer candidates.
Yes. And Uzi. Oh my God.
Listen, Uzi, Nicki, and Travis. We just gave you the the Holy Trinity right there.
Yeah.
But what I will mention is that none of them have dropped singles.
That's true.
You know, Uzi Wanna Rock is however long ago. Travis dropped 2 singles that were supposed to be from Utopia that I don't think are going to be there. They came out last year. Nicki has been doing some features, but I don't think that'll be from her album. Maybe the song with Ice Spice will be. Maybe that will be.
Yeah.
But they haven't dropped singles, and usually for a song to be a song of the summer, it usually has to be a single.
Yep.
So maybe by the time we do the next sound bites, we'll get a single from one of those 3, and we'll have a whole different song of the summer conversation. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see what it is, because I think that there have been some songs that have been already released that could be the song of the summer.
Yep.
And I think that it's interesting to see how they grow. Should we do our the baby check before we get out of here?
Yes, actually. Oh my God, yes. I want to see.
Okay, let me.
Because he was at what, number 70? No, he was at 90 something, and then he went up to 72, I believe.
Do you know what song is number one?
Number one currently?
We're currently number one.
I think it's a Morgan Wallen song, isn't it?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Last Night by Morgan Wallen. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so
the baby. I think the baby.
Ooh, the baby has gone down.
Oh,
last week at 69.
Okay.
This week at number 80.
Okay.
4 weeks on the chart.
So it's hovering.
He remains on the chart.
It's hovering.
And then let's do our last bit of chart trivia.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the highest ranking hip hop song on this chart? It's currently at number 4. We've mentioned this artist a couple times during this podcast.
Probably a song by Lil Durk. I can't remember the name of it.
That's correct. Him and J. Cole, All My Life.
Oh yeah.
Peaked at number 2.
Yeah.
This week at number 4. Yeah, so we'll be checking.
Yeah, we'll be checking. And also watch out next week because it'll be the 1 year anniversary for Honestly Nevermind.
Yep. Yeah.
Right? Where I want to talk about it.
I wanted to do it this episode, but I was like, we can wait.
Yeah. I want to talk about it because I've seen a lot of people coming around, and I remember I said at the beginning, I'm like, this is actually kind of good, and everyone is like, oh, it's so garbage. Why is he doing this? What is this house music? Blah blah blah. And then remember when Massive went big, and then remember when I called it. I gotta go find the footage because I called Massive being big.
You did. I remember that.
And then it's Text Go Green, and then guess what exploded? Massive.
I thought Sticky was. Let me check right now.
Sticky was a big deal too.
I thought Sticky was the one that blew up from that. But listen, this is why you listen to Album Mode, people.
Yeah.
Because we gave that album a good review as it happened.
Yes, we did.
We didn't wait a year to give the album a good review.
Yeah, because now everybody's like, oh, it's so warm outside. I'm at the beach party. I'm at pool parties. I'm like, oh, okay. Now I get it. Now you get it.
You're right. Sticky and Massive both have over 175 million streams. So both of those.
So now you get it. I remember there was that video of Drake where he's like, it's like we're doing this. It's like if you get it, you get it. If you don't, it's like we can only do so much. Already 2 steps ahead of you. I'm already there. I was 2 steps ahead of everybody else. Trust me.
We both gave Honestly Nevermind the exact same score. Do you know what score we gave it?
I think it was a 6.5.
6.5 is correct. We're listening to Album Mode, people. Please tap in. We did not wait a year. We did not wait till the video came out.
Yeah.
We heard the album.
And we were like cautiously optimistic.
We knew what it was. No, I think that album was bumping a lot in my house because me and my brother, Don, the youngest one, we were both banging it. Like, we were both banging it.
Yeah. When it first came out, I did too.
Yeah, so next week we'll get more into it. Yeah. Next week we'll get more into it, but
yes.
we'll save it for next week.
So thank you everybody for tuning into Sound Bites, where we're talking about the music, the culture, and the digital, everything about music today. I want to thank every single person. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Album Mode Pod, Instagram at Album Mode Pod, and then on TikTok, where we're more active. Trust me, on TikTok, that's where I'm like posting all this shit. That's where I'm putting in all the hot takes. Anything that is hot and spicy that comes out of the pods, I'm putting it on TikTok. Follow us there at Album Mode Pod. We are also watching the comments. I'll be in the comments arguing with people. I'd love doing that. So thank you everybody for listening and paying attention and following us. So everybody, make sure you know yourself and know your worth.
Later days.